Hey guys, this video does contain spoilers. I would advise anyone planning to watch this to read the books as well. Thanks, and of course, please enjoy the video. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know I have like a Karen behind me who's like ready to stab me in the back of the head. I'm not going to worry about that though, he seems to be stationary. Today's lore video, we're talking about the most recent piece of lore released by R.T. Kalin, who's actually a new author for the lore. I have to say, after reading the book, I definitely approve. Now before we jump into the book, I want to cover a bit of the background and flesh out the Karens a bit more for you guys, so we can understand the kind of people that they are. The story is based on three main characters that are all Karen. If you haven't been keeping up with the Landmark Live videos and the workshop videos in particular, you may have missed out when Steve Newser gave us a bit of background for the Karens. But fear not, EQ Hammer has come out with a racial guide for the Karens by Velux. Velux is a pretty knowledgeable guy as far as I understand when it comes to the lore. He does a show every Wednesday with the Visionary Gaming Community head, Giovanni, on their Twitch TV channel, and I would advise checking that as well if you're a lore junkie like me. The link will be in the description below, of course. In the original EverQuest, the Karen were called the Vashir. I'm not going to spend any time talking about their past, but if you'd like to learn more about the Moon Kitties of original EverQuest, you can check out eqcircle.com. So the Karens of EQN get their name from their homeland on Norath, the Kara Isles. These feline humanoids have a deep spiritual connection with Norath, and hence the world spirit Norai. They also have a connection with another world spirit by the name of Shadowline, which is an entirely different world apart from Norath, and from the knowledge shared with us by the devs, it seems to be a very inhospitable and ferocious world. Due to the Ashfall and the terrible destruction it wrought on Norath, access to certain worlds, like Shadowline, have been cut off temporarily. The fact that the Karens have two real homes, one here on Norath and one on Shadowline, is a big signal to me that they are a nomadic race, and that although they've lost their connection to their home world, it's not the end for them. They don't need to stay in one place. And actually, in the book, From Ash Comes Fire, we get to see that really clearly with the main characters. One of the new ideas behind the Karen is the seafaring aspect. They're great ship makers, they travel constantly. This definitely has some correlation with the respect of the stars that the Karens have, and the symbolism that the night sky lights have for the Karens. So now we've covered the basics of Karen culture and society, and I mean like the really basic basics. There's going to be a lot more coming along for this complex race. Let's go ahead and jump into the story. So at the beginning of the book, we get a glimpse of how the Ashen Order was founded. The Ashen Order is a monastery that sits atop Ash Peak, and it's where a majority of the story will take place. So the Ashen Order was actually founded by several different people, actually two of them from the Tyrdal. This is actually before the Tyrdal have become Dark Elves. The Tyrdal are an elite fighting force for the Combine, and previously the Coederdal. So there are actually four founders to the Ashen Order, and their names are Grandmaster Daera, Grandmaster Alluro, and Grandmaster Vamar. The fourth one, I don't actually know who he is or who she is. It doesn't say in the book who the fourth is. At the beginning of each chapter, we get a glimpse of what I don't know, but I think is the application of Grandmaster Tam to the Ashen Order. And it's really cool because as you progress through the story, you see this character come into the story, and he plays a really pivotal part in what happens. After the brief introduction of this mystery man applying to the Ashen Order, we cut to Cora Gamish, a young Karen woman, being awoken by her eldest brother Ari. She has one other brother, her twin, whose name is Cohen. I drew this little chart so you guys could better understand these relationships, because it's hard with all these new names to understand who I'm referring to. So Cora is being awoken by her older brother Ari because their village is being raided by pirates. Cora, Cohen, and Ari realize that they have to escape if they want to survive, but they can't go to the bay because everywhere in the village is just crowded with raiders, so they have to escape to the Desert of Ro. This probably sparks some nostalgia for you EQ original players. The dunes of Ro are a hot, deadly desert filled with all sorts of threats. If the heat and lack of water didn't kill you, one of the creatures that live there might. As they make their way to the edge of Ocean, they gather water skins from one of their dead neighbors' houses. As they're filling them, three raiders emerge from the smoke, covering the village. In the center of these three, a bald man with glowing fire for eyes leads them. Ari turns and tells the siblings to run as he gets ready to face down the three raiders and provide for their escape. After a brief moment of hesitation, the twins say goodbye to their brother and escape into the desert. The next chapter begins with Combe lying in the desert sand, 2 days after the escape from Ocean. A scuttling sound in the sand is actually what wakes him up, and he opens his eyes to see a giant scorpion the size of his torso looming over him. And eventually he grabs a water skin and puts it up as a shield, and the scorpion stabs through it and gets its stinger stuck. And so then the scorpion actually just wanders off and Kone's okay. After he's fought off the scorpion, he turns to his sister and realizes that she's completely unconscious. He looks around, and out of nowhere, an old Karen woman appears. Immediately, Kone was commanded to drink some water by this newcomer, and he grabs the water skin and angrily is about to shake it at her when he feels water sloshing around inside. They had been out of water for like a day. Somehow there was water in the water skin, so he tilts it back and takes 3 big gulps. And after a small conversation with this mysterious woman, the sand around them begins to swirl. As it swam through the air, Kone felt a change in the environment. When he opened his eyes, they were at the base of a mountain, and atop the mountain was the Ashen Order Monastery. So this is where the rest of the book takes place. 6 years later is when chapter 3 starts, and Korra and Kone have become members of the monastery. They are currently initiates. And at this time there's a carnival going on, or a festival, at the village called Sagara. It's right next to Ash Peak. There's a brawlers fight going on, and the Subin brothers are beating their opponents into the ground. The Subin brothers are these big brutish men, and Kone and Korra decide to step in. The Subin brothers end up getting beat really bad by Korra and Kone. As they finish their fight, the judge calls for the next challenger, and Grandmaster Tam, the leader of the Ash Peak Monastery, steps forward. They're like, oh crap, we're in huge trouble. This is the Grandmaster of the monastery. Anyway, Grandmaster Tam steps forward and says that he'll challenge them. He motions for Korra and Kone to step forward, and Grandmaster Tam just has a conversation with them and basically reprimands them, but then congratulates them and says, I would have done the same. I was thinking of intervening myself to save those other men. And he promotes them both to the rank of brother and sister. It's like my favorite moment in the book, because instead of getting in trouble, they're just positively reinforced for doing what was right and congratulated by the Grand Master. So in this next chapter, I need to correct myself. The 4th founder of the monastery was Adelia, Grandmaster Adelia, and she was buried at the monastery. The following chapter is actually just a conversation that happens between Grandmaster Tam, Kone, and Korra. And Grandmaster Tam asks them about the sacking of Ocean and how they escaped and everything that had happened that day. So they tell him the story, but they leave out a couple of really key parts. The moments they leave out are when the man with the fire burning eyes is the one who emerges from the smoke, and the lady who appears to them in the desert. And the reason that Kone sort of leaves these parts out is that he doesn't want people to think he's crazy. Eventually the Grandmaster sort of senses that they aren't telling the entire truth, so he coaxes them into telling him, and by the end of the chapter they're able to relay the whole truth to him. The Grandmaster tells them that there has been more villages recently that have been sacked, and this is 12 years after the sacking of Ocean. A long time has passed, and so ends the 4th chapter of From Ash Comes Fire. The 5th chapter begins with Korra, and she's with one of the younger initiates, and she's hiding in this dock house. They're actually looking out to the sea because the next town in line from the towns that have been sacked recently is Sagara, and this is the city right beneath Ash Peak. So they're preparing for the battle with the pirates. They know that they're coming, and as she's peering out through this dock warehouse, she sees the man with the burning eyes. As he gets a bit closer, she can see that he's not bald anymore. He actually has long, matted black hair, and it takes her a second to realize, but then she sees that it isn't the man at all. It's actually her brother, who was killed 12 years ago. So immediately this just takes her by surprise. She has no idea what to do, because she thought that her brother had been dead for these past 12 years. So she gets up and she heads to find Kone so that she can tell him that their brother is still alive. So she finds Kone in the dark alley with a bunch of other monks preparing for the battle, and all the villagers have been getting ready as well. The plan is that the villagers are going to run and scream down the streets as they see the raiders, and make it to the back of the village where they're going to get armed and then help push the raiders back to the docks. So she tells Kone, and Kone's like, are you sure? Both of them go to Grandmaster Tam and tell him the same thing. I think the exact words he says is, that's unfortunate. And then he says, but this changes nothing. We still have to hold them off. And this really makes both Kone and Korra kind of angry. They're like, this is our brother you're talking about. We can't just kill him. And Grandmaster Tam says, well, I will do it. I'll kill him so you don't have to. So the battle starts, and all of the raiders are running up, and the villagers are screaming and running, and the village is filling up with smoke, and so they're setting fire to houses and stuff. Then the villagers surge back with their weapons, and the monks of the monastery move out too. And Kone and Korra are in the battle, and they've already started fighting and stuff, and Korra isn't dressed in her monk uniform. She's actually dressed like a common villager, so that way she's harder to identify as a good fighter. As Kohn's searching through the crowd, he can't find her, but then he realizes that he heard fighting in another alley, and he went down there and saw Grandmaster Tam and his brother Ari, the one with the flaming eyes, in battle. He had to make a decision. He either had to kill the monster that his brother had become, or kill Grandmaster Tam and see if there was a way to save his brother. Korra appears beside him and says, "We have to save him. We have to help him." Kohn turns to her and she's like, "I'm talking about the Grandmaster. We have to help the Grandmaster." And this sort of gives a relief to Kohn because he had made up his mind that he was going to kill his brother as well. So they advance and they start fighting their brother, who had some sort of power. Something was making him so powerful that he moved even faster than the Grandmaster. They end up defeating their brother, and the Grandmaster breaks his neck and he falls to the ground. After this point, something really similar happens that happened after the fight with the Subin brothers. The Grandmaster says, "Masters Gamish, I need you." And they both turn to him, and Korra says, "Did you just call us masters?" And he promotes them to the rank of masters, and then that's the end of the book. So we don't know if the village survives, but we know that they were promoted to masters. I mean, I'm sure the village survived. The story behind the Flaming Eyes actually is about Majdul. Majdul is some sort of sorcerer. He was originally one of the people who opposed the monastery and fought at Sagara a long time ago, and the monastery was founded to protect Sagara. So they don't know if Majdul is dead, if when they defeated their brother, that if Majdul's spirit was banished forever. Anyway, that sums up the video for From Ash Comes Fire. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, please hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. And more videos will be coming out about the lore, so you'll be able to be notified when those videos come out. Thank you so much, and once again, happy adventures.